Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hey, what's up, Lock Shoppers? It is Friday, Conference Championship weekend in the National Football League. A ton of pucks to talk about as well. Welcome to the program. Patty on the road today, I believe, for the NLL, and Dusty doing dad duty. But myself, Jake Bolin Moss, and special guest star today on the Lock Shop representing the Ravens flock, Matthew Iwanek. Guys, great to see you both. Maddie, thanks for jumping on today. It was a little last minute, but I thought this would be perfect time to get you on for a little bit of chit chat. How are you?
I'm good. I've gotten over the loss from Sunday, so I believe.
Hey, heads up, I don't know if this is the same with you guys, but I'm getting an echo.
I'm hearing a pretty big echo off of Maddie as well. I was hearing it when we were opening the show, too. I don't know if that's
I'm not getting an echo. They're hearing an echo, Trev, off of me.
I wonder if one of the nasties saying any echoes from the nasties.
Okay, I think Matt, say something
did
again.
You fix something? I think you might be better now.
We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Sounds good to me
now. Anyways, great to have you on, Jake. Thanks again for jumping in yesterday. If nothing else, it did provide maybe the photo of the year for the Lock Shop, the Jake Swollen Moss wisdom teeth picture, as I was under the gun myself with my pal Dr. Terry here in the Peg at St. Vital Dental. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have a photo of the year SD planned, but might be time to plan it because I think I'm taking it home this year. I fired up my old wisdom teeth, swollen face photo on Twitter yesterday as Dusty and I were chatting about teeth, and I got some good interaction. And the birth of Jake Swollen Moss. Let me get credit on who said that yesterday because I don't want to botch it, but Jake Swollen Moss was the big name that came out of yesterday's show. So yeah, good times.
Absolutely hilarious. Now, we are going to get to the National Football League, of course, but with only 2 games, we've got a little bit of extra time. And Matt, I wanted to get you on right off the bat. Obviously, we want to get your takes on the football, but I had to laugh. I saw Greg Wyshynski just in the last 30 minutes say, we are this close to an Anchorman-style Royal Rumble between Vancouver and Edmonton media. How's the week been for those of you following the great rivalry between the Canucks and the Oilers?
I'll say I haven't been getting into any Vancouver media, so I guess I'll gladly stay out of that one. It's been something else. I feel like Oiler fans have been misunderstood largely in their anger and where their anger was going towards. I think a lot of people thought Oiler fans were upset that Connor McDavid got suspended, but the Oilers fans weren't upset. They were upset by the length of the suspension, but they knew there was a suspension coming. They were upset that there was no penalty called on that play last Saturday, which they then believe would have led to Connor McDavid not cross-checking Garland in the face and leading to a suspension. That's where the anger kind of came from. But it's been a fine week. I'm done. I'm excited that we're done talking about this. Because I don't recall ever a time where we've talked about some guy being suspended for doing something that he deserved to get suspended for, being needed to be like defended on the ice or something. Like the part that stunned me about yesterday going into it, the narrative was like, how are the Oilers going to respond for Connor McDavid, even though he did something to get suspended? And it wasn't, how are the Oilers going to respond for Evan Bouchard, who took the stick to the face and is the one that got cross-checked? It's just how we've changed the narrative around this. But for the Oilers yesterday, they handled it exactly how they needed to. They went out there, won it on the scoreboard in a big way. And then also when the Canucks tried to do anything, they didn't really get fully involved. Corey Perry grabbed... who was it that they grabbed? Quinn Hughes from a scrum.
Oh, yeah.
Took
Quinn Hughes.
him out. Well, it was a smart... Grabbed him from the scrum, dealt with Quinn Hughes to send that message. And then later there was going to be one of the Canucks players, I forgot who it was, he was going to fight with Corey Perry. Corey Perry got him to drop his mitts. And Corey Perry kept his mitts on. And he caused the Oilers were about to be shorthanded. And it was 4-on-4 hockey after that because Corey Perry was able to goad the Canucks into doing some things. So the Oilers handled it perfectly yesterday. I think Canucks fans now are going to be all upset today. I'm just ready for this conversation to be over because I don't think we could talk about this anymore. or at least I
as
don't want to.
as someone with no skin in the game, and Jake, I'll get your take on this as well. Corey Perry might be the biggest scumbag weasel in the National Hockey League, and the funniest thing, and I think you really need to folks to step back a little bit. It was Corey Perry who, after the first game, said, the league needs to do something to protect the Stars. And then he goes and grabs Quinn Hughes, who's doing absolutely nothing, and dumps him on his head. And then, of course, in true Perry fashion, will never, ever answer the challenge. I laughed so hard yesterday. I think it was Gregor had some piece that was out on social media, and it was just something, I guess, from his show. He was talking about how, and I'm sure this came from the rivalry and everything that's coming from Edmonton and Vancouver lately, about, the NHL needs to take a page out of wrestling. There's no good there. They need some heels. And he said, who are the good heels in the league? I mean, there's Matthew Tkachuk. Who else? How do you forget Corey Perry that's on your own team? And I guess he did a good job of reminding everybody last night. But Jake, I mean, you're far away from all of this nonsense. How have you been enjoying the back and forth over this 2-game series between Vancouver and Edmonton, where everyone's getting suspended and the media seem like they're getting ready to get inside of a steel cage?
Yeah, I wish I could get further away, I'll be honest with you, Huss. But no matter what, anytime there's some sort of, disciplinary action going on, somehow, at least on my feed, it's always coming back to the Leafs, right? Like when McDavid got suspended, I thought it was going to be 2 games. 3 I thought was too many, whatever. Like, we don't have to go into that deep thing, but it is what it is at this point. But yeah, listen, I didn't get a chance to watch the game last night, but I've seen some pictures, I've seen some videos, some pretty entertaining stuff by the looks of it. Yeah, like you said with Corey Perry, it's funny. This is a guy who won Rocket Richard, years and years ago, and he just found a way to stay in the league, jump around, and be an asset to these teams. And he just turns it on when he needs to, man. Like it's not an every night in, night out Tkachuk style pest. No. It's, hey, we need you to turn it on, Corey, and he finds a way to do it. I mean, God knows he's been a pest. Watching him, in Montreal there, that Montreal-Toronto series, a few years back, and he's a real pain in the butt. Him, Marchand, Tkachuk would be the big 3 to me that are like those Weasley pests. You remember when Marchand was licking guys and I don't know,
someone yesterday.
Pick your point. Yeah, that was crazy. I saw that video too. Took his hand out of his glove to choke Nick Cousins. I've never seen that in my life.
I'll say this, that might be a bit of a face turn, to use a wrestling terminology, because Nick Cousins would be right up there with the biggest rats in the league. Absolutely. However, I am looking in the Lock Shop chat. Matthew Tkachuk is actually watching the show right now and has reminded us, come on, let's not forget who the Rat King really is. Matthew, don't worry, you're still number 1 on the power poll.
Perry knows how to pick his spots very well. He's got that instinct in him where he goes and he does it. And he's a guy, every team hates the guy, but you'd love to have him on your team. Oiler fans would have disliked Corey Perry for a long time, but now he's one of theirs, so Oiler fans could all get behind him. Those type of players are ones you want on your team any day. You just hate going up against them. And, 100%. Canucks fans can be all upset, but is what it is. And the only thing I will say on the suspension, I wish it was 1 game for both players just because it was Oilers Canucks yesterday. It was 2 games delayed. To really draw the anticipation of that game, give those guys 1 game, let them be back in the lineup and really draw some attention to that game. That was the only thing I wish the NHL would have done. If you want to take a page out of wrestling, that's what you would have done.
They should have suspended them for 1 game, then allowed them to come back, and then another game after that. A 2-game suspension.
2-game suspension.
Split around the rematch. But hey, I do have
in the chat. Don't you know NHL allows choking? Remember Boosh tap out? I forgot about the Boosh tap out. That was quite a moment we had there.
Matt, 2 questions. Do the Oilers and Canucks play again in the regular season? That will be interesting if that does happen. But listen, this isn't an Oiler question. This is more of a Canuck question. I mean, I watched about half of that game last night. They look to be, for considering the situation and where they are in the standings, that was as pathetic, a spineless performance as I've seen in a long time. I cannot believe that is a Rick Tocchet coach team. And it is insane that that's the same team that won 50 games last year, that had one of the best backbones, I would say, in the league, and took you guys to a 7th game of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's also like they lose to the Sabres this week, and Rick Tocchet challenges his team and calls them out. And this is the performance. Even like, take away even just that you're getting ready for the Oilers with what happened Saturday. Your coach just called you out for your performance against Buffalo earlier this week, and this is the performance that you come out with. Doesn't get any easier because I think it's the Capitals tomorrow for the Canucks. You drop that one, you're just further outside of the playoff spot. The Oilers and Canucks, they don't play again the rest of this season. Like, it's one. You have to get rid of JT Miller as quickly as possible right now. You have to see if that is the big thing that would change your locker room. That if all of a sudden he's gone and things can just maybe get better and they have still time to recover this season. The longer they take with this JT Miller situation, just having him around and figuring out what they're going to do, it might not even be worth the return that you're going to get. If that's what you're waiting for, if that's what trying to find the proper pieces, that just getting him out might be the piece that you need if you're the Vancouver Canucks. But that was a pitiful performance to just all of a sudden fall down 5-0 after the two things, the rematch against the Oilers and then the performance against the Sabres. I didn't think the Canucks were going to be as good as they were last year. I think they were a little too lucky last year. I think just everything went well. And typically you do see a team drop down. But I didn't see a team be this type of mess when it came to the Vancouver Canucks. They need to do something really quick because if not, you can't just expect that the Calgary Flames are going to fall off now. You can't just be holding on to the fact that all of a sudden the Flames are going to fall off. They've been doing this for half a season now. You now kind of have to go, maybe the Flames are a good enough team to maybe crack a playoff spot. You've got to start playing better hockey. And Jim Rutherford's the type of guy that he likes to swing. He likes to go make moves. They need something quick here.
Well, and you know what? It's an interesting, and this is something we're going to be talking about on WST today. But when you look at the Western Conference, Calgary with that win yesterday, Calgary's got a 3-point cushion on Vancouver and St. Louis. Vancouver's going in the wrong direction. They've got a game in hand on Vancouver and 3 games in hand on St. Louis. So Calgary's put themselves in a really good position right now. But I think we can all agree that with a -9 goal differential, there's 7 really good teams in the West. And then there's Calgary, who, to their credit, has totally overachieved, I think, with most of our expectations. And if they make the playoffs, that'll be amazing for that team and that organization. But to me right now, certainly here in Winnipeg, with a 7-point gap over the second-place team in the Central, the race I think we're going to start paying very close attention to is the top of the Western Conference once we get out of the 4 nations, between Winnipeg at 67 points, Vegas at 64, Edmonton at 63. Because the fact of the matter is, if you get first, you're probably going to get Calgary in the first round. You win the Pacific, you could potentially, and finish second in the West, you could potentially be seeing Dallas or Colorado in the first round. And
Vegas, Colorado, if it started today. Winnipeg, Calgary.
There's a big drop off on that. So it's going to be something that we'll be paying very close attention to. And then the East right now.
We're just talking about all these Canadian teams. What if I set a line at 4.5 Canadian teams to make the playoffs? Where would you come out on that? Because, I think Edmonton, Winnipeg, Toronto, we can all feel pretty comfortable with. We've got Montreal and Ottawa in one race. I know Vancouver, we're talking about them being they're only 3 points out of the second wild card. They're not necessarily out of the playoff race. Yeah, they might have to make some moves to kind of get this team back on track. Where would you come out on a 4.5 team line for Canadian teams to make the playoffs?
Well, it's basically a bet on whether Ottawa or Montreal can grab a spot in the East. Because I think, unless St. Louis goes on a big run, if Calgary doesn't make it, that would mean they got to get caught by someone. I don't think it's going to be Utah or the Kraken. So, it's Calgary's to lose right now.
And even if Vancouver gets in, it's going to be Calgary at the expense of Calgary.
Exactly. So I think we're looking at 4 teams right there. But the East right now, Columbus is in that final spot. They've got 49. They're at 49 games with 53 points. The Rangers, Ottawa, and Montreal have the exact same record, 48 games, 52 points. I think with the way the Rangers are playing, they haven't lost in regulation in their last 10 after that terrible run that they've been on. I think it's most likely. I'd probably take the under 4.5, like Matt was saying, But if there was, I mean, I think, depending on what the line was on that, and I mean, if it was plus 150 or plus 160, you'd have to do it that way on it. Because I do think we're looking at 4 Canadian teams that are going to be in the playoffs. I mean, I think those 3 that you mentioned, Matt, and then one of Vancouver, but more likely Calgary. And I'll tell you what, if Ottawa or Montreal could make it, it would be really, really fun. I know the national broadcaster would appreciate it, at least for the first round.
Can I ask a question?
Third in the Atlantic isn't out of the race either for either the Sens or the Canadians. The Bruins only have 54 points, Tampa 53, and both those teams at 52. With a scatter group of games. Tampa kind of with the best spot there with less games played, but
yeah, like Tampa has 4 games they haven't played. That's the thing. That's sort of it's like you add at least 4 points to Tampa, which probably puts them, I mean, just a couple points back of Florida right now. What were you going to ask, Maddie?
Well, I have a question for Jake, because this has been something for the last few weeks that I've been thinking. Toronto Maple Leafs have a top 5 record right now in the National Hockey League. From my perspective, I feel like it's a quiet, good season for the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. That there isn't a lot of attention being drawn on them, or I'm not hearing a lot of noise about the Leafs season. Where are you at with the Leafs right now, with where they are with their record, where they're right up there?
Yeah, maybe that's a good thing, Maddie, that they necessarily haven't had a big explosion type of season. I don't know. Winning this division has always been that one thing that they haven't been able to do. They always kind of find themselves over the last few years, at least, sitting in that 2-3 slot and playing one of Tampa or Boston. We've seen it happen, time and time again. I'd like to see them win a division at some point. It feels like they're maturing. I think they play a different style of hockey as we've seen over the last, 4 or 5 years with Berube. It's a little bit more defensive minded, winning some lower scoring games. As of recent, there's been some higher scoring affairs with Tavares out, but winning some lower scoring games, pretty content as a Leaf fan, but at the same time, long way to go until we get to the playoffs, and we know what happens in the playoffs and in previous times. I got to see it to believe it,
Well, hey, people are saying that here in Winnipeg too. The one number that really sort of stands out when you look at the Leafs, they've only got a plus 11 goal differential for a team that's 13 games above 500. And then Boston somehow is in that third playoff spot at minus 22. I mean, some of the things don't compute, but I mean, these teams are going to race to the break and then come out. You'll get to the trade deadline. It's going to be a really, really fun second or last quarter, I guess, of the NHL season. Maddie, I know you got to run, but before we sort of dive into Chiefs, Bills, and all of that. First of all, a quick takeaway on the Ravens falling short again in the fashion that they did, and got to get your thoughts on the 2 remaining teams who will be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's going into it. I was like, okay, no matter what, the Ravens. There was 3 top teams in the AFC. It was the Bills, it's the Ravens, it's the Chiefs. If you're losing to one of them, that's a fine way to go out. But it was true Ravens fashion. I don't walk away from last Sunday going, the Buffalo Bills were just a better football team than the Baltimore Ravens and just completely deserved to make it to the AFC Championship game. It was one where the Ravens just shot themselves in the foot way too many times, and they just couldn't overcome all of their own mistakes. And it's something that if you're a Ravens fan, you've seen this time and time again. That's what Baltimore does. They mess things up for themselves. They get in their own way. It's... the interceptions one that I like, okay, I'll put that one aside. But if Mark Andrews catches the first football, Lamar Jackson's not fumbling on the next play. If Lamar Jackson, he's got to protect the football, he can't fumble that. Mark Andrews shouldn't be trying to juke out 3 different defenders at midfield when the Ravens have been moving well in the second half. And then he's just got to catch that ball on this 2-point conversion. I'm sorry, you've already screwed up twice in that game. What are you doing here? It's frustrating because it's what you expect as a Ravens fan is why they lost that football game. And I'd rather have the Bills sitting there and be they just were they played a clean football game. I'm not trying to discredit how the Buffalo Bills played on Sunday, but it's not like they were just too much for the Ravens to handle. And that's why the Ravens aren't playing this coming weekend. As for this upcoming weekend, it's an interesting one because the Bills, I feel like also they kind of had a quiet regular season this year. They were doing really well, but they weren't talked about, I think, enough of how good that they were. There was the talks about the Chiefs. There was times that the talk was about the Ravens and how good they were. The conversation moved around to the Lions, and I feel like the Bills quietly just went about business and proved that they're a good football team, and they obviously deserve to be in this moment. The thing that gives me confidence about the Bills possibly being the Chiefs is how well they ran against the Ravens this past week. And the Ravens are a good run-stop defense, and they struggled with the run. And if the Bills can get that going, if the Bills could have James Cook moving, and that allow Josh Allen to do what Josh Allen does, which is either having great passes or using his own legs, I think that's what's going to cause the Chiefs troubles. Because if the Bills could go put up points, what we've seen this year is the Chiefs can't. Or they haven't, I shouldn't say can't, they didn't. You know, they did enough to win football games this year, but it's them, the Pats, and I forgot who the other team was that didn't score 30 points or more in a single game this season, right? Like, if the Bills could go out there and score 31 points, is that going to be the football game? And the thing is, the Bills can go score 31 points. So I'm leaning towards the Bills in this one. But there's also, how do you bet against, like, if I had to make a pick, I ultimately would pick the Chiefs because it's from Tom Brady, it's from the Patriots. How do you bet against the champs? How do you bet? These are the New England Patriots, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to find a way to get it done. And even if you go to the point, not scoring 30 points or more, in the end, the one thing you say about the Chiefs then is they did enough to win football games. They didn't have to do more than they needed to because they're saving themselves up for the next two games. That all season was really about the next two games. And I saw that with the New England Patriots for so many years. September through December didn't really matter. It was January, February. And now let's see what happens when the Kansas City Chiefs take it to the field and know that, okay, you got to go score touchdowns. Are we going to see Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce in that offense just blow up? I struggle betting against that.
You know, you make a great point. I mean, the Chiefs did enough on a weekly basis to get the win, but it wasn't anything like kind of Chiefs football that we've seen maybe in the past. Although we live in a fantasy football society, so we focus so much on the offense. Mm-hmm. What really stood out to me being at Arrowhead last week after the Texans basically pulled a Mahomes. They had the long drive at the end of the second quarter, scored, got the ball, and had a 10.5-minute drive to start it and missed the convert, so they didn't tie the game. They were down by 1. After that, though, the defensive adjustments and the heat that they put on C.J. Stroud with 8 sacks, that was a masterpiece by Spags. They're all going to need to be at their best. And the good thing is, I mean, I think that the team's pretty healthy. Bills overall are pretty healthy, although I was looking at the injury report yesterday. Some concern about the status of their secondary, which does complicate things a little bit. But
yeah, they got
the end. This is exactly what I think everybody wanted to see. Josh Allen get another crack at it, and of course, what the Chiefs wanted was to have it at Arrowhead Stadium, and that's where it is, and we will see it. Before you rip out, quick thoughts on Jaden Daniels. I mean, what a story the Commanders are right now. I mean, he's authoring arguably the greatest rookie season in NFL history if they can keep going. Does the clock strike midnight for the Commanders this weekend, or can they get it done and beat Philly? A Philly team that, frankly, wasn't particularly impressive, and somehow for a game that should have been over was very fortunate, I think, thanks to Jalen Carter to sack Matt Stafford and avoid one of the worst collapses we've seen in recent playoff history.
Well, when you have a quarterback that can't move that much and is still clearly injured, and we've seen it through practice this week, that opens things up completely for the Washington Commanders, in my opinion. Here's the thing: I actually would rather see the Chiefs win than the Eagles. I hate Philly more than the Chiefs. I'm not one of the, I would rather see the Bills knock off the Chiefs. Sorry, Huss, but it's time, a little bit of new blood.
Hey, listen, I get it.
I would rather, though, the Chiefs win if it means the Commanders beat the Eagles. I hate Philly more. I just hate the entire sports city, all of their teams. Don't like them, despise them, don't want to see them get to the Super Bowl. So I will sacrifice the Buffalo Bills and allow the Kansas City Chiefs to move on if it means the Commanders, because it's also just new blood. Jaden Daniels having a great season. The one concern I have for the Commanders is, did you win your Super Bowl last Saturday by beating the Lions? Is there too much just like, we overcame this? Did you give everything that you have, that there's going to be the letdown? But the one thing that gives me the hope for the Commanders, and why I probably would at least pick them to cover the spread, would be just the status of Jalen Hurts. Like, they didn't look good against the Green Bay Packers. They didn't look good last weekend. Like, the Eagles team, I don't think is as strong as they could be because of, clearly the left knee is still bothering Hurts. So I think the Commanders keep this one close. I really hope they find a way to get a victory. I don't think it doesn't matter AFC. Whoever goes through is going to be a fun team to watch in the Super Bowl. If they go up against the Commanders, I think that's just an amazing story. These two longstanding, class of the AFC meeting up a brand new up-and-comer, and that's what I want to see come Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and Daniels has kind of barged into that conversation for the top quarterback. You can make an argument he's right now the best quarterback in the NFC, so that'll be great. Maddie, thanks again for jumping in. It's always great to catch up with you. Enjoy the games this weekend, and stay out of the mud with all of your brethren there in the city.
I don't need to be connected to the Edmonton media all the time. That's I'll stay away from that one. You'll see my chair empty while I go flip things over, so don't worry about that.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. You know what? It's funny. Why don't we get into the Eagles Commanders first, Jake, while we do it? Oh, and by the way, I'm just seeing in the chat, the guys are asking about this Jets game tonight. Big Maple, Huss, I need to know if you're going to be in the building tonight. That will determine if I bet the Jets money line or not. If Huss is there, I might even tease it to Jets -2.5. I will be in the building tonight, continuing my impressive record of attendance at the at Canada Life Center. And of course, Utah had a big win last night. They went into Minnesota, beat them 4-0 with Kaprizov and Spurgeon coming back.
Yeah.
But man, that's a tough spot. You play in Minnesota, and it just often happens when teams are on the road in the Central. They'll either play the Jets first and then Minnesota the next night, or Minnesota and then the Jets the next night. Very similar to what happens when teams go to Edmonton and Calgary. This is a weekend where the Jets are on the good side of that. Both Utah and Calgary on Sunday are going to be on the second end of back-to-back. So consider that when you're putting in your picks for the weekend. But just on what Matt's point was about this the Eagles and Jalen Hurts' status. Did you see the interview with Hurts at the end of the game? He was hopped up on perks or something like that. Like, he had a lot of painkillers in it because it was so different than any interview we've seen with him before. I mean, he basically looked high. I do wonder what he's got coming in. To me, this kind of comes down to, Jake, Saquon Barkley versus the Commanders defense and Jaden Daniels versus that incredible pass rush of the Philadelphia Eagles and their defense overall in their secondary.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Jalen Hurts thing, I did see the clips online. I saw people with similar to Jake Bolin Moss. They were calling him Jalen Perks. It was an interesting one, and he's clearly dealing with some issues. I was just looking, funny Huss, we were talking about that game. I was just looking at some of the props. I don't know if I can bet anything that's not Saquon Barkley in terms of Eagles side of the football. Like, what can you put trust in right now? A.J. Brown isn't having, outstanding performances. Devonta Smith, like maybe Dallas Goedert, that might be a guy like you kind of look to, maybe a reception number on him. But, how much is Jalen going to actually throw the ball? He hasn't been throwing a ton. He hasn't been scooping up a ton of yards. And with how bad the Commanders' defense was against the run last week to the Lions, like, how many Saquon going to touch the ball 30 times on Sunday? Like, would that surprise you? It wouldn't surprise me. Oh, I think you're muted, Huss.
I love the fact that Coolbet has not only anytime touchdown scorer, first TD scorer, last touchdown scorer, but to score 2 TDs or more. Because to be honest, I think the path to victory for Philly is riding the horse that is Saquon Barkley, and he is plus 210 to pop 2 touchdowns in this game. I mean, for him to score, it's minus 278, which is sort of a tough number to swallow. But I wouldn't put it past him at all to hit a couple. And then it basically comes down to what Jaden Daniels and that Commanders offense is able to do.
Yeah, I'm with you, Huss. I mean, Dusty and I chatted about it yesterday, and we were talking because the number was so crazy for Barkley to get 1 TD, and I was like, well, let's see what we can do. Maybe we can get up to score 2+, and we have one for Barkley now. Who else did we get on here? Hurts 5-1, AJ Brown plus 950, Terry McLaurin plus 950, Brian Robinson Jr. 16-1, Devonta Smith 16-1, and Jaden Daniels 18-1. If you're looking for those 2+ TD scores, yeah. Listen, it's we're going to get into official picks here, but just as we're talking about touchdowns, maybe we do. Since it's kind of a weird, like 2 games, how are we going to do a house callers? Maybe we do a house callers for the first game and a house callers for the second game, and we just kind of keep it exclusive to those 2 games. That way we're not like hoping for something to happen in the first game and we're completely out of it by the second game. It doesn't hurt to have a couple parlays going, and maybe it's 2 or 3 guys per, or, we like Barkley 2+. I think that's probably going to be in there.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm thinking maybe we take Barkley at 2+. Mm-hmm. And then we have to look at what we like for the Commanders. I mean, obviously there's numbers. Who, and he's far down the list, but I will be betting this number for sure. I think Zach Ertz comes up big.
I'm all over it. That was my favorite pick of the game.
I love it.
My favorite pick of the game. That was my favorite pick of the game. Like, Ertz in revenge spot, got up in Sirianni's face last meeting. Like, I don't know what was going on there. Like, you tell me this guy's not going to go have a game, and he's been a huge piece, especially down in the red zone for Daniels to throw to. Like, he's been a great target for them. Plus 275. You get those 2 guys. Plus 210 for Barkley 2+, Ertz plus 275.
It's over. It's almost 11-1 before a boost.
Like, that's going to be one of our parlays.
Okay,
I'm putting it out.
Let's lock that in right now. We'll have that up there. Our early house callers is going to be a double dose of Saquon Barkley and Zach Ertz for the Commanders. We'll get that in the thing. As far as this game goes, before we move over to it, I mean, I'll go right off the bat. I'm taking Washington +6. I think if you played this game 10 times, I think Philly probably runs away with it in 2 or 3 of them. I think the Commanders and Philly play a tight game, 6 or less in probably half of the games. And I think the Commanders probably win a couple of the games. I mean, they already beat them. And let's not forget, Jaden Daniels put up 5 touchdowns in that 38-35 win earlier on this season. They have so much momentum. They're playing with house money. All the pressure is on Philly. And I think we saw in the fourth quarter last week, the cracks right now in Philadelphia overall. They were incredibly fortunate to survive that game. Now, the one guy that could stop all of this is Carter. I mean, he is such a problem right now on the defensive line for Philadelphia. But it's a pretty clear job for the Washington needs to channel the old championship hogs of their glory days back in the 80s and early 90s. Just block. Maybe they can run the football a bit better than they have before. But to be honest, I'm not even sure that's that important. It's just about protecting Jaden Daniels. So I'm going to take them at +6. Jake, I don't know where you can pop me where you're at, and then I want to get into a couple of other player props for this game as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to ride with you. Dusty was back and forth yesterday. I think he ended up deciding on the Commanders +6. Patty sent me his pick. He's also going to be on the Commanders this weekend. I don't love that we're all on the Commanders, but at the same time, like, I faded them twice now, and it's bit me both times. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm rooting for the Eagles, especially to cover a number like the 6 that's out there. I just can't live with that. And, I don't want to discredit the Eagles' defense because I think that's been a really strong point for them. The run game's been a really strong point. But they have injuries to, like, the most important position on the football field, and that's the quarterback. So, is Saquon Barkley going to run down the Commanders' throat? Maybe. But if they can limit Barkley, and I'm saying limit as in, like, keep him under 150, I think there's something there. If they're in third and long situation as the Eagles, I don't know how much trust you're putting in Jalen Hurts right now with, how banged up he could be or is in this situation. And Jaden Daniels is just like, the guy's got balls of steel, Huss. Like, he doesn't matter the scenario. He steps in, and if it's late in the game and you need a score, he goes and gets it done. The 4th down conversions last week, I think they were 3 for 4 on 4th down last week. They made one bad decision with Marcus Mariota. I don't know why they did that. But just keep the ball in Jaden Daniels' hands. I do worry a little bit about that offensive line versus the Eagles' defensive line. But, with how elusive Daniels is, I think you can get him in some, rollouts, get him to the weak side of the field and let him make plays down the field. Get him a little bit of extra time and let him make some plays. He's got the arm, and he's not afraid of anything. That pass to Dimey Brown last week where Brown's, eyes are shut and he just drops it in a bucket. I don't know. I can't not be on the Commanders after what I've seen these last 2 playoff games. And they're playing with house money. They have nothing to lose, Huss. So with that in mind and with how much pressure the Eagles will be facing, plus the injury to Hurts, I gotta take the Commanders with you guys.
As I say, and I think this is sort of, best case scenario, we've got 2 close games and a couple overs, and there's a bunch of points.
Yeah, I love that.
And there's no doubt that Barkley's going to be a huge part of this. I mean, Barkley's total rushing is 127.5, which is such a huge number. Wouldn't surprise me if it went over. It's probably a little bit too much to jump on, but that is where it is. And hey, if you want to have some fun, pop a little bit on the Commanders money line, maybe bet builder that or parlay that with the over at 47.5. One other one, I've been listening to some, a bunch of, either pods or articles on this. The receiving yards, an interesting one is Austin Eckler over 25.5 yards. Mm-hmm. He does seem to be I do think Philly is going to be pressuring Jaden Daniels. They're good enough that they're going to get there. The poise of Daniels, he rarely just throws it away. But I think that check down of Eckler, is going to be something that they use quite frequently. So I don't mind the over 25.5 receiving yards for Austin Eckler. And, one other thing on the rushing, Jaden Daniels is a big rushing number, 54.5. But Hurts is at 32.5. And if we think they're going to run Barkley as much as we do, and Hurts is taking care of that leg and needs to stay in the game, I'm not sure they use him as much in the running game as they have before. I would consider maybe taking the under on the 32.5 for Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, he broke that big one last week for the touchdown, but I have a hard time seeing that happen again this week, especially with the ankle. To Eckler, to your point on Eckler, I'm on board for that. He didn't play both games against the Eagles this year, but in the game he did play, 8 receptions on 9 targets for 89 yards receiving, including a long of 34. It was his best receiving yards total of the season. In the playoffs, he's had 3 receptions on 4 targets for 26 and 4 receptions on 4 targets for 41 in the last 2 weeks. So I'll ride with you there on Eckler. I feel like we'll see how we go here in the next game, but I feel like we got a touchdown, a couple touchdown parlays, maybe a prop parlay, and we'll just leave the sides as is. Maybe that's what we end up doing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think everyone knows. And the thing about this Bills-Chiefs game is that, I mean, right now, is it still 2? So it's 2. It went down to 1.5 for about 10 minutes yesterday, and then went right back to 2, and it's 109 on both sides. So we're basically looking at a game that, I mean, even from a Chiefs side of things, I'm not touching the 2 points. This is a money line play. And I think most people, because there's valid arguments for both teams. I mean, I totally understand why a lot of people that are behind the Bills think that this is their time with the way that they played. And they did beat the Chiefs earlier this year. Now, it wasn't Buffalo, but they played really well there. And obviously the Chiefs' resume speaks for itself. But to me, if you're betting this game, pick your side, jump on the money line. The Bills right now at plus 105, the Chiefs at minus 123. I was thinking about the way I felt in this situation last year, because you'll remember this was kind of the down year for the Chiefs. This was the first time they didn't win the AFC. This was when they were playing in the wild card weekend and then had to go on the road to Buffalo and then to Baltimore and then to the Super Bowl, and obviously ran the table and won. While the team and their body of work hasn't been as impressive this year, it has been more effective this year. And they have found a way at every single turn to do what they needed to do to win, and they've avoided the pitfalls, the losses to the Raiders and the Browns, like the Baltimore Ravens had, and the losses that the Bills had, including that one to the Rams towards the end of the season in that crazy shootout game that ended up getting the Chiefs the leg up and a little bit of wiggle room down the road to, in fact, even rest their guys in the final week. So I feel good about the Chiefs. I think they have the championship pedigree. I think Mahomes is, like, make no mistake, Mahomes is hearing all of this. And he knows that, the one way to sort of stick it to his critics, any Chiefs fans come playoff time call him Petty Mahomes. And he will go and make a statement. I'm expecting a huge game from Mahomes on the weekend. I think the Kelsey, well, we'll get into some of the props in a minute, but I'm not touching the line. I'm just hammering the money line because these teams are so closely matched. And you look at the history, Jake, between these two teams in the playoffs, it always comes right down to the wire. Would not surprise me at all if it's a missed extra point or something like that. That's the difference in this game. So I'm just taking the money line on this. And history tells me, and I do see it's actually gone up. The total has gone up a point over the course of the last few hours, I guess. It's up to 48.5. Every time these teams have played, they've been in excess of 50 right now. So I think I'm still liking the over in this game and the Chiefs. We know where Pat's at with this one.
Well,
with the Mafia.
Patty texted me and he said, I'm happiness hedging the shit out of this week for the show. He's taking Chiefs for the official picks. Chiefs -2 for the official pick. I know, like you said, it's really a money line play, especially for the Chiefs side. Yeah. Like, I don't think you're even messing with those 2 points. If you want to mess with them, if you're taking the Bills, you can take the +2. I think that's fine. But don't, how often are games ending as 2 point differences, right? Like, we've seen it, but it's not like we see it last week, right, with the Bills and Ravens. But it's not necessarily that football number anyways. And if you want a little bit more value, the +105 on the money line is the place to be. Listen, I only have 3 wins these playoffs, Huss, in terms of spread picks. 2 of them have came from the Buffalo Bills. I don't know. I might be, petty myself, not wanting to see the Chiefs get to another Super Bowl. And that might be part of the reason why I'm going to take the Bills this week. And I thought I learned my lesson last year, because last year I figured it out. I was like, you know what? Just take the Chiefs. They're going to make the Super Bowl. Don't overthink it. Just take the Chiefs. And this year, you know what it is, Huss? It's the slowly creeping towards the 3-peat, something Tom never did. And I just don't know if I can live with myself. And Patrick Mahomes has a 3-peat and still still so much career left in front of him. It's going to drive me a bit crazy. So we need a savior. I watch every single Bills Josh Allen edit on my Instagram reels. I'm not even a Bills fan. I'm a Patriots fan. But when it comes to this weekend, I'm going to be a Bills fan. I'm going to get in the Mafia. For the official pick, I'll take the +2, but I'm playing at money line.
I love this. There's no greater compliment to the Chiefs and the Kingdom to have division rivals lining up on side of the teams that they play and they hate because they want to see us lose. I absolutely love it. By the way, in the chat, let's do a quick poll of everyone. Just let us know in the chat. We're not talking spread here. Straight up money line. Who wins? Bills, Chiefs. Let us know your thoughts.
Let's see what the people are feeling.
Now, it's a good thing Pat isn't here for me to bring this up because I do have an exclusive that has been put into the exclusive section right now, and you will see it. It is, and again, this is actually, I like this because I got it in at this 47.5 number. Mm-hmm. But it is the Chiefs to win. It is over 47.5. And it is an Xavier-worthy touchdown. And you will recall, maybe you won't, but I will remind you all that 7 years ago, the Chiefs traded up with the Bills to select Patrick Mahomes. The rest is history. Well, last year at the draft, the Chiefs managed to trade up with the Bills again and select Xavier Worthy. Still surprised that the Bills were even willing to trade with the Chiefs. But man, if there's anything that would be more Bills-esque than the guy that the Chiefs used, basically 2 picks from the Bills, Mahomes to Worthy, being their downfall in the AFC Championship game, this is it. So if you're in with that narrative, a Worthy touchdown, Chiefs to win and over 47.5, it's plus 625 in the exclusives under Lock Shop Partner Parlay. And I think Worthy is going to have a big game. I think Mahomes is going to have a big game. I guess the big question now after he exploded last week is how big of a story Travis Kelce is going to be. And he always is a massive game. 68.5 is the total. He went for over 100 last year. It's almost like they were just saving him, knowing that he's 36 years old and, doesn't have this sort of maybe gas that, you'd have to do this every season. It was almost load management all season long, but come right now, he will be there. I actually really like the over on this one too. I think he's going to be very much involved. And the fact that, now you have Hollywood Brown, Kelsey's there, DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Worthy. I mean, all the weapons outside of Rashee Rice are there, which I think makes it impossible to just focus on Kelce. But come those big plays, he is the guy that Mahomes trusts more than anyone. I think we'll see a lot of Kelce right now, but the Worthy touchdown, the big touchdown at a key part of the game would just be, frankly, part of the script, if you ask me.
Yeah, listen, I'm totally down for scripting things. You talk about Kelce, 14 straight playoff games with 70-plus receiving yards. I don't know how you're not taking his over this weekend. Pat had him as a house caller. If we're building something out for that, I'm totally fine. I had Kelce last week. He was, he just seems to find a way to get it done. When the playoffs come around, doesn't matter what kind of season he's had, all regular season. When it comes to the playoffs, the guy you can rely on. And Dusty presented to us yesterday, like, the Bills don't cover the middle of the field that well, and that's kind of where Travis Kelce eats. So, he could have a big game. I wouldn't be surprised if he's up over 100 again, but we just need him around that 70 mark in terms of his receiving yards numbers. So, yeah, I'm on board with the Kelce. Any other props you like for this game, Huss? As we're kind of winding down here.
You know what, Jake? Just grab a couple of your favorites right here. Give me 1 second here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to go through here. Oh, I don't know. Tough to say. Like, Kareem Hunt was a really nice goal line piece for the Chiefs. His touchdown number plus 150 isn't too bad. I know kind of him and Pacheco have been working with one another. It's so tough when it comes to the Bills. Like, who's going to be their big guy? Actually who I was on last week, Khalil Shakir receptions, 5.5 plus money. That's probably my favorite one. Like, he seems to be the guy that Josh relies on when they need a big catch, a third down, extend a drive, anything along those lines. That's the guy Josh goes to. He kind of reminds me of a lot of those slot receivers that the Pats had all those years. A guy you can just get on a little in route, 5-6 yards down the field, move the sticks, stay ahead of the sticks. So Shakir, 5.5 receptions to the over plus 117. I don't mind that.
Do you like the 5.5 better than the 56.5 yards?
Yeah, I don't know. I was on the receptions last week. That's why I kind of lean that way myself. And he cashed that with ease. It was really a no sweat. Maybe I'll just go check his game log here while we're chatting and see what it's been.
We touched on the Travis Kelce. It's funny. I was thinking about Worthy. Worthy's 49.5. The thing that's tough about Worthy is they often utilize him in sort of running plays that don't necessarily get credited with receiving yards. As I said, I like him to score in this game. Another guy that I do like to get in is Kareem Hunt. And, Hunt is slightly ahead of Pacheco in the odds. I wouldn't be surprised if Pacheco has a big game. They're going to use them both, but I think Kareem Hunt is a guy that they'll go to at the goal line a little bit more. So Hunt is the other guy, in addition to Kelce, that I think we can sort of count on for scoring. So do we want to do a house callers? Do we want to add in the Shakir? Do we just want to kind of put this together and kind of do a Kelsey touchdown, Shakir over, and a couple of the other ones?
Well, yeah, Patty had the Kelsey touchdown. So let's do Kelsey touchdown. Let's do Shakir receptions, because I just looked through. Most targets he had this season were against the Chiefs. He had 12 targets on 8 catches on 12 targets for 70 yards. I feel like when Josh needs a guy, that's who he looks to. You know, in the playoffs, he's got 6 targets for 6 receptions, 7 targets for 6 receptions, both 60-plus yards.
Plus 117,
so
too.
I don't mind the plus money there. So maybe it's Kelsey TD, Shakir.
Let's take the yards, too, for Kelsey while we're at it. I mean, we may as well just, you know.
So Kelsey, 70-plus. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. So we'll have a house callers for game 1. It'll be Saquon 2+ TDs and Ertz 1+ TD. And then we'll do a little prop palooza here for game 2. So we'll do Kelsey yards, 68.5 plus. Kelsey touchdown. We'll do Shakir receptions, and then anything else.
Well, I mean, that's already over 8-1.
Okay, let's just stay right there.
I mean, totally see it there, and we can, we'll be pushing for Kelsey and Shakir in that late game.
Dusty liked Kelsey as well, so it'll be Kelsey and Shakir in the night game. We'll have the touchdowns in the first game. I'm hoping, like you said, Huss, for 2 overs, a lot of points, a lot of fun this weekend. Hopefully, we can win some bets. I'm sure for your heart, it's just Chiefs. The focus is the Chiefs. I get it. Like I said to Dusty yesterday, being a Pats fan for as long as I was, I finally understand why people hated Brady and the Pats so much, because this is what Mahomes and the Chiefs do. They win and they go to Super Bowls, and they break a lot of hearts. So we'll have to see what happens with the Bills. Bills fans have been through the ringer. They'd love to go to a Super Bowl.
As I said, Bills fans, I hold no ill will towards any of you, and I am on the record. If you are able to come into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs, I will be cheering for you in the Super Bowl. However, my heart lies with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Chiefs, and I think they get it done. Check the exclusives, check the combo cards for all that. And of course, some great, you want to quickly hit promos for the weekend just before we finish up? Because I know there's lots going on.
Yeah, let's do it. So starting with some promotions, we got the weekend win boost, of course. From now until Sunday, you get a 25% boost on an NHL or NBA bet. Totally up to you. I think parlays work there. Totally on you to decide. We have our weekly free bet for the NFL. So bet 30, get a $15 free bet the following week when betting on the NFL. I believe we also have a bet builder. You get cash back on a bet builder. If you head over to the campaigns, you'll see it's called Build a Bet. Create a same game parlay and earn cash back. I think it's up to $10. So you can get cash back on a bet builder play. You head over to the combos. We have a couple super boosts. Australian Open's wrapping up this weekend. We got both favorites to win, -127 up to even money. Super Bowl 57 rematch super boost. Eagles and Chiefs both to win this weekend, from +144 up to +210. And then some NHL ones, Lamplighters, points from the point, shots, an NLL combo, and then a few for the NFL as well, including the Edmonton Sports Talk early bird, both the road dogs, Commanders +6.5, Bills +2.5. And then exclusives, you already mentioned it, Huss. Your ride with Huss is worthy anytime. Bills, Chiefs over 47.5, and the Chiefs to win. We also have Winnipeg Sports Talk exclusive for a night. I don't know if you want to touch on that before we get going. And then a ton of NFL exclusives as well. So if you head over to the exclusives page, make sure you check everything out before you lock those in. Yeah,
tonight for the Jets, we got Jets to win, Scheifele 2 points, Kyle Connor to score. That one is +525. And thank you for holding it down. I'm actually off to the big Costa Rica Poker Open.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, by the way, for you UFC fans, check out the Dog or Pass podcast. Great stuff. Paul Shag, who does it with Cody Safdie. They are very sharp. Shag is coming with me. We will be meeting in Toronto on Monday. Shag is a psycho Bills fan. I am a Chiefs fan. So I can pretty much guarantee you that there will be some photos and or videos up on X of one person that is on top of the world and another individual that is in FML mode. after what happens at Arrowhead on Sunday. And we'll be popping in with the guys. We got to wait and see what the schedule's like, but I'll certainly try and jump in throughout the week when possible and bring it home for the crew. But Jake, have a great weekend. We'll see you in the chat. Everybody enjoy championship weekend. And again, for tonight, WST Parlay is up right there. Combo cards, exclusives. Let's have a great weekend on the best Sunday of NFL football of the year. That's it for the Lock Shop. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, what the heck are you waiting for? Use the promo code LOCKSHOP. 100% bonus, up to $200 on your first deposit. May the winners be yours. We'll talk to you next week.